Imagine this. Your phone rings late at night. The voice on the other end is shaking, frightened, calling you grandma or grandpa and saying they've been in an accident or arrested in a faraway place. They beg you not to tell anyone, not to hang up, and to send money right away. Your heart races. You feel fear, urgency, and love all at once. You want to help. You're ready to act. But what if that voice isn't who it says it is? What if it's a lie, a trap, a carefully crafted deception designed to steal not just your money, but your trust, your peace, and your dignity? Every day, elderly people across the world are falling victim to this kind of scam. These are not strangers walking up to you on the street. These are voices pretending to be family, messages pretending to come from government agencies, emails pretending to offer help or blessings. Scammers are not just after your wallet. They want to exploit your kindness, your faith in others, and your instinct to help. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't shine light on these dark tactics, then more good people will be hurt. So today, we are going to speak truth, clearly and boldly. Scammers targeting the elderly is a growing and deeply troubling issue in today's society. Many older adults, especially those living alone or less familiar with modern technology, have become frequent targets for fraudsters who prey on their kindness, trust, and sometimes cognitive decline. These scammers often use manipulative tactics that appeal to the emotions of older individuals, such as pretending to be in desperate need or posing as a trusted figure. The result is that elderly people, who may be trying to do a good deed or help someone in distress, end up losing their savings, security, and peace of mind. These scams take many forms. One of the most common is known as the grandparents scam, where a scammer calls an elderly person pretending to be a grandchild in trouble, often claiming to have been arrested or in an accident and needing money immediately. The call is usually accompanied by a plea not to tell the parents, which manipulates the elder's protective instincts and desire to help quietly. Because the scammer often uses vague terms like "it's me" or "don't you recognize my voice," the elder may fill in the gaps emotionally, convinced they are really speaking to their grandchild. Another tactic involves impersonating government officials, law enforcement, or tech support agents. The scammer may say there's a problem with the elder's bank account, social security number, or computer, and that immediate action is needed. The urgency and authority in the scammer's tone can make even skeptical individuals comply, especially when threats of fines or jail time are introduced. Fraudsters know that many elders are more respectful of authority and less likely to challenge an official-sounding directive. Elderly people are also frequently targeted through mail and email scams that offer fake lottery winnings, sweepstakes, or too-good-to-be-true investments. The fraudsters ask for upfront payments or personal information in order to claim the prize, and once the elder complies, the money is gone and the scammers disappear. Because older individuals may not always report these incidents, whether due to embarrassment or not knowing where to turn, the cycle often continues unimpeded. One of the most painful aspects of this issue is that it takes advantage of good intentions. Elders often want to be helpful, supportive, and charitable. They've spent lifetimes giving to others and trusting in the basic goodness of people. But these very qualities are being used against them by heartless criminals who care only about stealing money and leaving confusion and fear in their wake. What makes this even more alarming is that many elders are unaware of the sophistication of modern scams. They may not be equipped to spot fake caller IDs, cloned emails, or manipulated voices. Education and awareness are key in protecting our elders from falling victim to these malicious tricks. Family members and caregivers must make an active effort to inform and empower elderly loved ones, encouraging them to verify before trusting and never to act out of fear or pressure. Only then can we hope to shield them from those who exploit their trust for selfish gain. The disguise of desperation is one of the most powerful weapons in a scammer's arsenal. It preys not on greed or vanity, but on compassion. Scammers have learned that pretending to be in trouble opens doors that might otherwise remain closed. When a voice on the phone trembles or a message reads with urgency and sorrow, it can bypass the rational mind and go straight to the heart. This is especially dangerous for elderly individuals, whose hearts are often open, nurturing, and ready to help those in need. The disguise these scammers wear is emotional rather than physical. They do not need masks or costumes. They come cloaked in convincing stories, forged relationships, and fake emergencies that feel all too real. A common scenario involves someone calling late at night, claiming to be a grandchild or distant relative stranded in a foreign country, arrested or injured. The story is designed to create panic and confusion. They might say their phone is broken, their voice sounds different, or they only have a moment to talk. The aim is to bypass logic and get the elder to act quickly, sending money before confirming whether the story is true. The scammer counts on the elder's sense of duty and unconditional love to override any suspicion. In another version, a scammer might pose as a parent of a child in need of urgent surgery, or as a soldier in distress, a missionary who lost everything, or even a desperate single mother. These personas are carefully chosen to appeal to the kind of person who has spent a lifetime helping others. These aren't random stories. They are crafted with research and precision. Some scammers study social media profiles, find names of family members, and even use artificial intelligence to mimic voices or produce realistic conversations. The elderly are especially vulnerable when the person they believe they are helping seems to know details about their life. It builds false trust and makes the lie feel like truth. Many elderly individuals have grown up in times when a person's word could be taken as honest, when neighbors helped neighbors, and when trust was the default, not the exception. This cultural foundation becomes a vulnerability when facing modern-day deceivers who use deceit like a craft. These scammers are not merely stealing money, they are stealing confidence, emotional peace, and sometimes the very sense of reality. After an elderly person discovers they have been tricked, the shame and embarrassment can be overwhelming. They may withdraw from others, question their own judgment, and become fearful of future interactions. This emotional toll is often far more damaging than the financial loss. To fight against this tactic, awareness is crucial. Elders must be taught that urgency and secrecy in a plea for help are red flags, not virtues. They need to understand that true emergencies rarely require instant, unverified action. Families should remind their elders that they should always check with someone they trust before responding to these types of requests. In a world where deception can come wrapped in the voice of a loved one, discernment becomes the truest form of protection. Technology as a tool for deception has become one of the most dangerous elements in the modern scams that target the elderly. In past decades, fraud was often limited to in-person encounters, suspicious letters, or maybe a phone call. But today, with the rise of smartphones, social media, email, voice cloning, and spoofing technology, scammers have found countless ways to manipulate reality. The elderly, who may not have grown up with this level of technological complexity, often find themselves at a disadvantage when trying to distinguish between what is real and what is fake. Scammers exploit this gap in understanding with precision and patience, using technology to impersonate loved ones, companies, or government officials. Phone spoofing is one common tactic. This allows a scammer to manipulate the caller ID display so that it appears the call is coming from a trusted source, such as a local number, a bank, or even a family member. When an elderly person sees a familiar name or number, their guard comes down. The scammer then uses emotional manipulation or false urgency to convince the elder to share personal information or send money. So what makes spoofing so dangerous is that it completely undermines the sense of safety we associate with recognizing a number. Many elders trust their caller ID and don't realize it can be forged with ease. Email scams are also widespread. Scammers send messages that appear to be from legitimate organizations, complete with logos, professional language, and official-looking links. These emails might claim that an account has been compromised, that a bill is overdue, or that a prize has been won. All the recipient needs to do is click a link or provide some information. Many elders, trying to resolve the issue quickly, comply without thinking twice. These phishing emails often lead to identity theft or unauthorized access to bank accounts. Some emails even install malware onto the computer, giving scammers remote access to sensitive data. Social media adds another layer of vulnerability. Scammers can create fake profiles, impersonate family members, or gather information about a target's relationships, habits, and interests. With this data, they craft personalized scams that feel incredibly convincing. For example, a scammer might message an elderly user claiming to be their niece, referencing real events or using photos stolen from the niece's account. The elder, unaware that their online interactions are being monitored and manipulated, may fall right into the trap. Voice cloning is a newer and even more sinister development. With just a few seconds of recorded speech, scammers can use artificial intelligence to mimic the voice of someone the elder knows. Imagine a call that sounds exactly like a grandson asking for help. The voice is right, the story is urgent. How does one say no to that? The answer lies in education, awareness, and caution. Elders need to be taught that technology can lie and that trust must never be based on appearances alone. Verification, second opinions, and skepticism are no longer just wise habits. They are essential shields in a digital world full of invisible dangers. Guilt as a weapon is one of the most insidious tools scammers use to manipulate the elderly. Unlike brute force or threats of violence, this tactic relies on emotional coercion. It exploits the very best parts of human nature: compassion, responsibility, and the desire to do what is right. For many elders, helping others is a deeply ingrained value, something they have practiced throughout their lives. Scammers understand this, and they twist it for selfish gain, constructing scenarios that place the victim in a moral dilemma where doing nothing feels heartless and doing something leads to exploitation. One of the most common approaches involves creating a false sense of urgency combined with a plea that appeals to moral obligation. The scammer might say, "If you don't help, something terrible will happen," or "You're my only hope right now." These lines are deliberately designed to stir up guilt. The idea is to corner the elderly person emotionally, leaving them with a heavy burden if they choose not to act. It plays into the fear of failing someone in need or being the reason harm comes to a loved one, or even a stranger. The scammer may not raise their voice or make direct threats. Instead, they whisper distress, softly accusing the elder of being the only one who can make things right. This tactic can be especially powerful when combined with impersonation. When a person believes they are speaking to their child, grandchild, or friend, guilt becomes a powerful motivator. The elderly victim may feel responsible for the younger generation's well-being and is desperate to protect them from harm. Even when something about the story feels off, the emotional manipulation clouds their judgment. The guilt overrides logic, and they act out of instinct rather than verification. Scammers know that many elderly people fear being seen as cold-hearted or uncaring. They exploit that fear ruthlessly. Charity scams also use guilt as a hook. Posing as representatives from fake organizations, scammers reach out to elders with heartbreaking stories of disaster, illness, or poverty. They may send pictures, fabricated testimonials, or alarming statistics. The message is always the same: you can help, and if you choose not to, you are turning your back on those who are suffering. The elder, who may have a long history of charitable giving, feels pressure to give even when they suspect the organization might not be legitimate. The emotional cost of these scams is profound. Once the elder realizes they have been tricked, the guilt does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes shame for having believed the lie, regret for having given, and distrust in future appeals for help. That emotional wound can linger far longer than the financial loss. To protect our elders, we must help them understand that true compassion includes wisdom, that saying no is not the same as being unkind, and that manipulation disguised as a cry for help must be met not with guilt, but with courage and clarity. The biblical call for discernment is not merely a suggestion, it is a command to walk through life with eyes open and hearts guarded by wisdom. While compassion, charity, and mercy are at the very core of what it means to live a righteous life, the Scriptures also warn that not everyone who asks is sincere. Not every cry for help is genuine. And not every person who appears in need is truly a victim. For the elderly especially, who are often more inclined to give, to trust, and to believe the best in others, this call for discernment must be heard loudly and clearly. The Bible speaks plainly of wolves in sheep's clothing, individuals who appear harmless, even holy, but whose intentions are rooted in deception and destruction. These are the very types of people modern scammers represent. They do not come with threats or weapons. They come with charm, with stories of sorrow, with voices that sound like family, and pleas that mimic genuine suffering. But their aim is not to be helped. It is to take. It is to deceive. It is to rob the innocent under the mask of need. Discernment is the spiritual tool that helps us separate the true from the false, the sheep from the wolves, the sincere from the manipulative. It is not suspicion for suspicion's sake, but rather a careful, thoughtful testing of what is presented. It is asking the hard questions when something feels wrong. It is pausing before acting, seeking counsel, and refusing to be rushed. Discernment protects the heart without closing it. It preserves generosity without making it blind. Elderly individuals, having lived long lives and seen much of the world's joys and sorrows, often feel a responsibility to help when help is needed. But even the most experienced soul can be caught off guard when evil comes disguised as innocence. That is why discernment must not only be practiced, but actively strengthened. It means recognizing patterns, questioning motives, and knowing that even a voice that sounds familiar can be false. It means being willing to say no when something doesn't feel right, even if the voice on the other end pleads otherwise. Scripture does not call us to help blindly. It calls us to walk wisely, to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. This means guarding our hearts and our homes, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Discernment is not the enemy of love, it is its protector. And for the elderly, who often serve as moral and spiritual anchors in their families and communities, modeling discernment is a way of teaching others how to love wisely, give responsibly, and live with both compassion and caution. In a world filled with deception and manipulation, discernment is not just useful, it is essential. It allows goodness to flourish without being exploited, and it honors both the intention to help and the responsibility to protect what God has entrusted to each of us. Protecting wisdom with wisdom means understanding that the experience gained over a lifetime must now be shielded with awareness, caution, and knowledge of how the world has changed. Elders are the bearers of life's greatest lessons. They have endured hardship, raised families, served their communities, and often lived through times of scarcity and plenty. Their instincts for kindness, generosity, and trust are not weaknesses, they are virtues. But in today's fast-moving, technology-driven world, those very virtues are being targeted and manipulated by people who see wisdom not as something to be honored, but as something to be exploited. The elderly often assume that having lived a long life means they can spot trouble when it appears, and in many ways they can. But the trouble of today wears a new face. It doesn't always knock at the door. It sneaks in through a phone line, a text message, a screen, or a fake voice. This new kind of deception is dressed up in modern tools and technologies that didn't exist 50 or 60 years ago. And because of that, even the wisest elder can be misled unless they choose to arm themselves with new knowledge, adding modern wisdom to the old. That means learning the signs of fraud, the methods of scammers, and the ways in which deceit now disguises itself. It means recognizing that not every urgent request is real, that emotional pressure is often a tactic, and that not everyone who calls you grandma or friend has your best interests at heart. Being wise today means asking questions, verifying information, and refusing to be rushed into decision. It means consulting with a trusted family member or friend before giving money or sharing personal information. There is no shame in being cautious. In fact, caution is a form of care for oneself and for one's legacy. When an elder protects their savings, their identity, and their peace of mind, they are not just defending themselves. They are protecting the fruit of decades of labor. They are ensuring that what they have built, what they have stored up, and what they hope to pass on is not stolen by deceitful hands. Wisdom that has been earned must now be guarded. Moreover, sharing that protection is a powerful act. Elders can teach younger generations about scams and dishonesty, not only by talking about them, but by modeling how to respond wisely. When an elder says, "I got a suspicious call, and I didn't respond until I checked with your uncle," they are not showing weakness, they are showing strength. That moment becomes a lesson. It tells children and grandchildren, be alert, be informed, be strong. In this way, protecting wisdom with wisdom becomes a gift not only to the elder, but to the whole family and community. The world changes, but the role of the elder remains vital. And now more than ever, that role must include not only sharing what they know, but guarding what they have. In this changing world filled with both light and shadow, we must speak plainly and boldly. To every elder listening, understand this truth. Your kindness is not a weakness, but it must be guarded with wisdom. Your life experience is priceless, but even that must be shielded from those who seek to manipulate and deceive. The days of trusting every voice and helping every caller are behind us. Now is the time for careful discernment, for listening with the heart but confirming with the mind. The people who prey on your compassion are not in need. They are in disguise. Do not let their lies rob you of your peace, your resources, or your dignity. You have given so much to others. You have raised children, held hands through grief, worked hard, loved deeply, and served faithfully. Now you must protect what remains. Verify before you give. Pause before you act. Seek counsel before you decide. And always remember, saying no to a scam is not unkind. It is wise. You are not alone in this. Your family, your community, and your God stand with you. May your days be filled with clarity, peace, and protection. Stay strong, stay alert, and above all, stay wise. Thank you for listening, and good luck as you walk forward with courage and truth in your heart.